Jennings was always seen as a bit of a wild card in Nashville. Known for his rugged individualism and helping popularize the grittier, rock-infused genre known as outlaw country. Waylon Jennings was always seen as a bit of a wild card in Nashville. He demanded the freedom to record whatever material he pleased while working with his choice of musicians. And to be fair, as one of country's biggest legends, Waylon earned the right to make such demands. In 1958, Waylon began working with a musician who would quickly become one of his biggest mentors. Buddy Holly of the Crickets arranged his first studio session before hiring him to play bass in his 1959 Winter Dance Party band. After a lifetime of living like a rock star and putting his body through about as much abuse as it could take, Jennings died in his sleep from complications of diabetes on February 13, 2002, at age 64. While Waylon certainly lived a full life and accomplished much, he took one terrible regret to his grave. Keep watching to learn what the painful secret was. What Waylon learned from Buddy Holly.
So right off the bat, I had no idea that Waylon and Buddy had crossed paths. Again, you don't want to generalize based on appearance, but you just see Buddy Holly and you see Waylon Jennings, and you think they would come from completely separate worlds. But music tends to have a way of building bridges between even the most distant worlds. And I'm not particularly familiar with Buddy Holly's personal life or his anything beyond some of his music. So maybe maybe the pairing isn't as unlikely as it might seem on the surface. Either way, it's fascinating so far.
Jennings' thing he learned from Holly was attitude. Holly it came to his music. He was profoundly independent and always stayed true to his instincts. Jennings, too, never let anyone boss him around or dictate what kind of music he should make. He was a true artist who made several landmark records that shifted the entire country music scene into new territory. Jennings told the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999 that Holly was the first person who ever had confidence in him. He went on to say that before he met Holly, he had about as much star quality as an old shoe. But Buddy Holly immediately took a liking to the young musician and never stopped believing in him. Jennings landed his first big break when he was invited to join Holly's tour band. That milestone also proved to be one of the most significant turning points in his life and career. Before we tell you more about Waylon Jennings, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. He had a seat on Buddy Holly's doomed flight. By the late 50s, Waylon Jennings was one of the lucky West Texas musicians to find success in the music industry by tapping into the...
So real quick, I'm going to go back to restate that. But just so you all know, that really is something we try to avoid doing on the channel, stopping what we're doing to advertise. That is really aggravating. Understand you want to draw people into your channel. That is like someone who follows you around a store asking if you want to buy stuff. Or if you pull up to a drive-thru and they keep asking you, oh, would you like this? Oh, would you like this as well? Would you like this? I just told you what I wanted. Yeah, that's a personal little rant there. Just the idea of Waylon earning artistic independence from Buddy Holly, that is something that I think is missing from a lot of today's recording industry. You have people that are dependent on the record labels, and the industry kind of fosters that dependence as well. But then you have like a completely separate group of people that do things on, for instance, YouTube and stuff like that, and those two never cross over. I think maybe there needs to be more musicians and more artists that sort of band together and that can use the clout and the revenue they can generate on YouTube to sort of influence the industry to be more pro-artist as opposed to pro, I guess, the bean counting corporations. And not all record labels are bad, and not all people in the business side of the industry are bad. You know, you don't hear the tales of like the really, I guess, generous businessmen a whole lot, but it happens. But yeah, there's far too many predators in the music industry. Let's continue.
Career. To tell you more about Waylon Jennings, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. He had a seat on Buddy Holly's doomed flight. By the late 50s, Waylon Jennings was one of the lucky West Texas musicians to find success in the music industry by tapping into the previously unexplored sound that could be found at the intersection of rock and roll and country. Buddy Holly was the poster boy of this burgeoning movement. He was a highly talented and savvy kid from Lubbock, Texas, who took the nation by storm with songs like Peggy Sue and That'll Be the Day. After working with Waylon in the studio for his first recording session, providing some backing guitar work, Holly burst into the KLLL studio where Waylon was working one day, thrust a bass guitar at him, and told him he had 2 weeks to learn how to play it. Buddy had been looking for someone to play bass with the Crickets for their 1959 Winter Dance Party tour. But the Crickets lacked members. This meant Holly had to find backing musicians quickly. In addition to Jennings, he hired Tommy Alsop on guitar and Carl Goose Bunch on drums. To prepare for the tour, Jennings listened to Holly's entire catalog on repeat. He had very little time to work out all the kinks, and he definitely didn't want to disappoint one of his biggest heroes. The infamous Winter Dance Party tour, set up by Irving Field of General Artists Corporation, would feature the Big Bopper, Richie Valens, Dion and the Belmonts, and a relatively unknown singer from the Big Apple named Frankie Sardo, in addition to Holly and his Crickets, as they bounced around the Midwest from January to February 1959. Although the tour was welcomed by the young teeny boppers, who no doubt felt cooped up during what was historically one of the coldest winters on record, it was hardly any fun for Holly, Jennings, and the other musicians who spent the bulk of their time crammed like sardines into a frigid tour bus with a broken heater. To make matters worse, while traversing 300 miles between Green Bay Minnesota following their show on January 31st, the tour bus broke down. Sick and tired of the brutal conditions, Holly chartered a plane so he wouldn't have to spend another night sitting elbow to elbow with his fellow musicians. Alsop and Jennings both agreed to shell out $36 for a chance to hitch a ride on Holly's chartered flight so they could arrive early and enjoy a night in a warm, cozy hotel bed and do some laundry. However, in the intermission at the Clear Lake, Iowa show, Richardson was unable to convince Jennings to give his seat up on the plane. The 250-pound man was rightly called the Big Bopper. As such, he could barely squeeze himself into the narrow bus seat. He also had come down with the flu and desperately wanted to get some sleep to fight it off. The last conversation Jennings had with Holly involved the two exchanging playful jabs about their respective means of transportation. Holly told Jennings he hoped his damn bus would freeze up again, while Jennings chided that he hoped Holly's plane would crash. At around 1 a.m. on February 3rd, 1959, Holly and company lack of experience and a few minutes after.
I can't even imagine flying with an inexperienced pilot, period, is terrifying enough. I've flown enough times where I'm relatively comfortable with it. Takeoff is still kind of nerve-wracking. But yeah, that's just a very bad combination of factors there. Waylon's probably, that thought probably never left his head that he said, I wish you guys crashed. I can only imagine what he felt like at that point. But that's the glamorous rock star life, ladies and gentlemen, crammed in a bus with a bunch of other musicians who you may or may not get along with. No heating, no air. You're either freezing or you're baking up and down the roads. And your other option, take a flight and hope that the pilot knows what the hell he's doing. I understand that the really, really, really successful ones can go past that. But yeah, this is not some, and I'm sure there's amazing stories that they can tell from those tour buses and whatnot. I still remember the Silver Eagle. Was it the tour bus with George Jones and company? I remember that. It's almost like a character in these tales. But yeah, I guess it's just it is tragic. So many Randy Rhoads also perished in a plane crash, but that was basically just a pilot being a moron, just buzzing the tour bus. Um, Again, you wonder what might have been had this not happened. This is the one that happened. That's called the night the music died. Is it not? I believe it is. Um, but yeah, I remember hearing about that before I even got into music fully. So never want to see something like that happen, but you know, it paved the way for Waylon to become his own man, and no one's going to forget Buddy Holly either. And Jesus Christ, yeah, plane crashes, Leonard Skinner. Good Lord, I remember reading an interview with the surviving members of Skinner in a Guitar magazine, where one of them was just talking about his shoulder being messed up and being in constant day in day out pain. So yeah, I mean, you don't want to. I mean, for the most part, like I said I've flown. Danny has flown. We've been safe. But yeah, just the wrong combination of factors can make things very, very dangerous. And fortunately, Skinner was as a unit was able to continue making music um, despite the losses, and Waylon was able to continue. So the music did live on, but yeah, part of it did die in that plane crash.
A few minutes after takeoff. Holly, Valens, Peterson, and Richard were killed instantly. Since then, the evening has come to be known as the day the music died. Waylon took the news hard, blaming himself for what had happened to his dear friend and mentor and kicking himself for those ominously foreboding parting words. Jennings was hardly able to make it through the final 2 weeks of the Winter Dance Party tour. After it was over, he turned down an offer to join the newly reformed Crickets. Instead, he made his way back to Texas, intending to hang up his guitar and quit music. But time heals all wounds, and eventually Jennings was able to overcome the guilt and grief and return back to his true calling. But he never forgot the influence of his mentor, Buddy Holly, and how he took him under his wing and imparted some of the most valuable life lessons he ever learned. Waylon's last show. Waylon Jennings' health was already failing when he played his last major concert at the historic Ryman Auditorium in Nashville in January of 2000. He was backed by an all-star band called the Waymore Blues Band, who were made up of some of his favorite fellow musicians. Jennings called the group the band he always wanted. He was joined on stage by his beloved wife Jessie Coulter and guest musicians Travis Tritt, Montgomery Gentry, and John Anderson. The concert film Never Say Die, The Final Concert, which was recorded over 2 nights, documented this powerful and emotional performance. Jennings may have been a bit more subdued than he was when he was in his prime, but he still put on one heck of a show while revisiting some of his classics like I'm a Rambling Man, Good-Hearted Woman, and I've Always Been Crazy. To wrap up his career on the same fiercely independent note he'd always been known for, Jennings energetically performed the songs Never Say Die and Going Down Rocking before bidding his fans a heartfelt farewell. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Waylon Jennings was ever able to forgive himself for the ominous parting words he exchanged with Buddy Holly? Let us know in the comments section below. And
so I'm going to interrupt him there briefly. I am very glad that Waylon was able to enjoy creating music in some of his last years. They mentioned, that was the band that he'd always wanted. He was able to play with contemporaries and people that he loved. I also remember watching a video of him performing with the Highwaymen.
Turn it.
Little peek behind the scenes at KuztumCreator, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was turning it the wrong way. So, yeah, my post says Luke. I hate this camera angle. I won't turn my camera on. So, what do you think about Waylon Jennings, the outlaw, playing bass for Buddy Holly?
That blew my mind. Like when you mentioned he'd played bass for somebody. I guess I wasn't quite sure who he would have made sense. Buddy Holly probably would have been towards the bottom of my list. Like I said, I don't know that much about Buddy. I mean, if he was as fiercely independent as they mentioned, then I can definitely see them sort of bonding over that. Music, like I said, has a way of sort of bridging gaps between people. I did notice that I think Waylon seems to be one of those people that's always looked old. So, I said young Waylon Jennings, I'm like, as old as I am. But I think that's cool. Like you've always said that the worlds of rock and country are not, or at least were not, as separate as people think they are. That is just another jewel in that crown. It is really unfortunate the thing that happened with the plane crash. Like those musicians dying as a result is bad enough, but he carried that guilt to the end because he got over it. He was able to get back into music, which is great. And I'm sure performing was a good outlet for him. But that had to pop into his head a lot. That he said, in all jest, I hope you crash. And then it did. I can't even imagine going through something like that. But,
that's the part that
yeah
would stick with me too.
Yeah,
Yeah, 1,000,000%. So, thought we would do a little something for and with Waylon today. Pause for station identification. Yeah, we're back. So, what we're going to do, Don't Let Your Mamas Grow Up to Be Cowboys by Waylon. And this small little tribute / information or come back in history, learning about all musicians and how they did. But I actually seen something that really touched my heart that was done for Waylon, and he continues to do things for Waylon. By the way, did you notice that little documentary that said Waylon was inducted in 1999 to the Country Music Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Remember what we talked about, Hank, 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not saying he was more deserving than Waylon, saying he was in the same class.
Most definitely. No question.
Well, it was 21 years later before they put him in there.
21. Yeah.
Fucking assholes. All right.
And I'm sure there's people inducted in like before Hank that were not nearly his caliber or his influence.
I told you the show they done for him, every one of those artists that thanked him for shaping their career were already there. Anyway, that ain't what we're talking about here, so sorry. This is, let's just, I'm going to set us up OGL into the camera where we can just go for this, and I've already seen it, so I'm going to let you do the reacting, but it's not very long. I'm kind of just stalling from setting us up. Here we go.
Until then, I'll enjoy looking at
Right now,
Reba
to
and
talk
Blue.
about another country legend and friend we lost recently. Here's Hank Williams Jr.
The most important event in Waylon Jennings' country music career took place before he ever recorded a note of country music. In 1959, he was the bass player in Buddy Holly's traveling band. One night, he gave up his seat on the tragic plane ride that killed Buddy, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens. Waylon never got over it. Stop the world and let me on. In the late 60s, he was signed to RCA by Chet Atkins and had some top 10 hits. But his outlaw approach to life and music really began with songs like Lonesome Ornery and Me. And this one. Then came the number one. This number one song about my dad was really about an artist taking control of his music. Waylon turned country upside down.
I think Hank knows a little something about that.
Yeah. Good-Hearted Woman was from Wanted, the Outlaws.
Sorry, Jesse.
It was Nashville's first platinum album.
Mama's gonna let your babies grow up to be.
Say that again, sir. That was country music's first platinum album by an outlaw? Oh, hell.
Oh, Waylon was Nashville's first solo platinum album, and this Waylon Willie Song Classic was in Waylon's greatest hits, the first Nashville album to go quadruple platinum. Waylon was always ready to question things.
I've always been crazy,
but he had an answer for every question.
But I'm still around.
In the
There you
80s,
go.
the Outlaws grew into the Highwaymen. In his time, Waylon sang a lot of songs about women.
On past the milky.
He also sang songs written by women, like Dolly Parton.
Won't you waltz me to heaven tonight? Storms never.
There's him and Jesse.
Do they, baby?
And he sang songs with women, like his beloved wife, Jessie Cole.
Bad times all past with the wind. Nobody else can.
And there were songs sung by women about him, like Reba's Sweet Music Man.
Nobody sings a love song quite like you.
Dirt by Waylon Jennings. Dirt is quiet, it doesn't make noise, and it's fun to play with for girls and boys.
Waylon reciting.
Side note, this is where Jerry Cantrell, who was raised on outlaw country music, got the idea for the name of the album to be called Dirt.
Okay. I
From
didn't even think of that, but yeah.
Jesse. God from Waylon Jennings. Yeah,
For
because
kids.
sorry, yeah, Jerry Cantrell he's got a whole big long interview about how he grew up on the Outlaws country music. That's all he heard in his house.
The funny thing is, like, you would think just listening to Alice in Chains, like Man in the Box or Them Bones or something like that, you think, oh, I wouldn't expect that. But listen to Don't Follow. Like, I could hear someone like Johnny Cash or Hank doing that song. So yeah,
and just
like
set aside the
hear
music.
that's like,
Sorry.
yeah, I was going to say, but if you hear, it's like, oh yeah, I can hear the influence there.
Yeah. Because definitely the way Alice in Chains' mindset and lyrical content, besides screwing women, was not a lot different than Waylon's. It was dark imagery type music. But anyway.
The attitude.
Yeah.
For kids, under that tough image with a good-hearted, fun-loving husband, father, and...
By the way, the story Dirt was for kids, yeah. And so that was just their own parable, I guess.
friend.
Good old Dirt.
Yeah. You can take the music out of Texas.
Waylon lived and performed in many places, but his heart would always be in Texas and in America.
No matter where I may roam, tell you people that it's home sweet home, America, America.
Be the man.
He was the man. At his funeral, they played The Dream, the last song Waylon ever wrote and recorded. It said, I know what I feel. I know what is real. I know because I was there. All I can say that is I've had it both ways, and the dream could never compare. What a man, what a friend, and what a life.
For those who don't know, this is coming from Waylon's best friend in his whole life, Mr. Hank Williams Jr.
I looked in the eyes of Waylon, and there I saw things I'd never seen before. I saw a father and a brother and a friend. I saw the nights we spent wild out on the road. It's not the money, it's not the fame, and it's not the ladies. And the eyes of Waylon just told me so. And if I doubted there's a hillbilly heaven, the eyes of Waylon just told me so.
I thought that would be perfect. Just a little context vibe there.
I think, first of all, if Hank Williams Jr. says you're the man, then you're the man. Take that to the bank. Also, always, anytime Hank talks, even his voice just has this very kind of low-key authoritativeness to it. You know, like, he knows he's the man, too. Definitely see how those two I can definitely see. Like, you can see the similarities and when you told me those two were friends, like, okay, I most definitely, I can see that. They seem cut from a very similar cloth.
And Waylon was really all of their best friend, man. It was kind of funny because if you talk to Willie Nelson, he's going to tell you Waylon was his best friend too. If you talk to Johnny Cash, he's going to tell you Waylon was one of his best friends. Especially those three. Johnny Cash, Hank Jr., and Willie Nelson were all staples upon Waylon's life.
And I love that camaraderie between them, how they were always collaborating with each other, doing songs with each other, or shouting each other out in their music. It's a brotherhood. It's very cool to see and to hear.
Yeah. So I just thought we would give you a little treat, and thank you for watching it all. And I knew that was a very little short song at the end, so it wasn't going to take away from. Actually, it just added a little cherry on top of the cake. So, Forgotten Country, revamping and currently revamping it, trying to bring it back without calling out all that it isn't. Let's talk about what it is.
100%.
We all know the drill. We love you guys. Go ahead, Jim.
Hank Williams Jr. is still the man, and Waylon Jennings, rock out in hillbilly heaven, sir.
Yes, sir. Rock in paradise. OGL, OGT.